Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Sunday, February the 18th. And welcome to our commentary. If you've been opening your insurance rate renewal letters here lately, you've noticed that you're getting an increase, whether it's automobile insurance, whether it's home insurance, other kinds of insurance, I assume health insurance as well. And, this is, of course, creating some questions and some concerns. So today I thought I would invite to the program a very good friend, Enrique Garcia, who's an independent insurance agent here in the North Texas area. And we can hear from the insurance industry, or at least from an independent insurance agent, as to what he thinks is going on and why these rates are happening and so on. So let me say hello to our friend Enrique Garcia. How are you, Enrique?
Hey, doing good. Hi, Silvio. How are you? Thank you.
Doing great. Always great to see you. Enrique, I mentioned in the introduction that you're an independent insurance agent. So, first of all, tell me a little bit about yourself and your history as an insurance agent, and then also what is the difference between an independent insurance agent, let's just say, another type of insurance agent. So, tell me about that.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. In the insurance industry, there's to be an independent agent, you really start to channel through a captive agency. A captive agency is an agent that you're only able to sell insurance through that specific carrier. As an independent, then you have more flexibility, and it gives you the opportunity to be able to have contracts with other companies, other carriers, and you can check the rates to find out which is
Yeah.
the best rate for your customer.
Right. So as an independent, you as they say represent different carriers, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
And you have a book of carriers. So if a customer comes to you and says, I want to buy this or I want to buy that, you can kind of like shop around and look for a carrier maybe that that let's say is more favorable to that customer. I assume that's what you mean.
Correct. It gives me the ability to check with different companies that are within my portfolio and try to determine which is the best way for the consumer to go.
Just out of curiosity, Enrique, I just thought of this question. How many insurance carriers are there in the United States? I mean, there must be hundreds, or is that too many?
No, I'm sure there's a lot. I don't know. Not all carriers are. Sometimes you run into people that come in from out of state and they say, "Well, I have XYZ company back in the state I came from," and they may not be in. So it just depends on the carrier. Of course, you have some bigger companies that all over the United States. And those are usually like admitted carriers, and admitted means that they're allowed to do business in that specific state.
Yeah. Because in order to do business in a state, you have to be accepted in that state, right?
Yes, you have
Uh,
filings through the Texas Department of Insurance, yeah, and I guess I don't know how it works in other states. I've never
yeah.
had to go outside of the state.
Yeah. So Texas being as big as it is and as large a state with almost what 30 million people, I would think that we have a bunch of companies that want to do business here. I would think.
Yeah, sometimes you do get a lot of companies, a lot of monoline companies. Monoline meaning that, for instance, on occasion you'll have a company that'll come in and all they do is write auto or write home, one or the other, not both. And there's been a lot of monoline homeowners in the past several years, but unfortunately, because of the weather and claims that we have here in Texas, a lot of those companies don't make it. They're
Yeah.
getting bought out or merge with a different company or leave the state entirely.
Yeah. And you mentioned an interesting point. Texas with are there some unique characteristics to Texas? I mean, do we have problems, let's say, that other states don't have? I mean, we don't have the snowstorms, I suppose, that they have up in Minnesota and Wisconsin, but we do have some pretty bad summers. So, does any of that impact carriers and the type of coverage they offer?
Well, the coverage in Texas is really just going to be pretty much across the board for Texas. We don't. The area that we're in, the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area, we get hit a lot by tornadoes, hailstorms, windstorms, and things like that do have an effect on the homes. And what we've run into, or what you mentioned, the price increases of homeowners. A lot of that is the last 2 or 3 years, prices have just gone up for building materials, and that's what's driven the price up. Because prior to all of this, you had all of these homes that were insured at 100% replacement cost based on previous actuarial data. And now, with all these sudden price increases that we've had over the last 2 or 3 years, these insurance companies are having to catch up,
right?
Because of the price they've had. Building materials. I have a roofer that was telling me that he used to buy panels for $33 a panel, and now he's paying like $100.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure inflation has caught up with him too. But let me ask you, just before we get into more details, how long have you been in the industry?
I'm 25 years, 26
Wow.
May, so it's been a good haul.
Yeah, all of it is an independent, or did you?
No, I was a captive agent for the first 10
Yeah.
years with one of the larger companies, and then I decided to become an independent agent because I wanted to have the flexibility of offering a little bit more to my customers.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fascinating. There are many, many independent agents in the country. In fact, I've seen some advertising. There must be an organization that represents you, that represents the independent agents and promotes the idea of buying from an independent agent, because I've seen these ads on TV or certainly in magazines over the years, Enrique.
Right, that's true. There are different types of organizations for independent agents. Keep in mind also, a lot of these carriers that independent agents have, the only way that the public will have access through them is through an independent agency channel.
Yeah, because they don't necessarily advertise like some of the others do. So the only way to learn about them is when your independent agent presents that policy to you, I guess. That's
Exactly.
what you mean.
Yes, sir.
Now, you and I'm sure lots of other agents are dealing with these increases that your clients are getting. And, you mentioned inflation being a driving factor. Let's talk about automobile insurance first. What are some of the driving factors in the rise in car insurance rates? I mean, what are some of the things that your carriers are telling you that is forcing them to increase their rates, Enrique?
Well, you got to keep in mind that with auto rates, there's 2 factors that they're covering: bodily injury and property damage. So property damage is the damage to your vehicle or damage to another vehicle. If you go to the body shop and they have to do some work to your car, the hourly rates have changed. The price of materials has gone up, so they have to compensate for that. And bodily injury, we all know if you have to ever go to the hospital due to an auto injury accident, it costs a lot of money. You can be in the ER for a couple of hours, and it's going to rack up several $1,000s. So all of those criteria have caused the increase in the auto rates.
Now, one thing that from my understanding, and I'm sure a lot of people are confused on this, as I am, when you have an accident and there's bodily injury and they take you to the hospital, let's say emergency, what insurance company steps in? The health insurance company, or let's say your health insurance policy,
Well,
or the automobile insurance policy, or do they both work together? This has always been very curious to me. So let's say somebody is in an accident, they rush you to the emergency room with bad injuries. What insurance company pays, the healthcare or the automobile?
Well, the automobile, it depends on who accepts liability. If you're at fault and the company accepts liability, then they'll pay for the bodily injury. But a lot of times, they have to get the information to the adjusters for the claims to determine who's at fault. That way they can determine who's going to claim responsibility.
So whoever is responsible, I guess, their carrier or their health insurance carrier will pick up the cost. It's fascinating. I was not aware of that.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay.
And keep in mind, sometimes when you're going through a claim process, some of these insurance companies, they have to go through the channels. They have to dot their I's and cross their T's. So it may take a little bit of a while, so.
Because when there's only damage to the car, let's say a car crash or whatever with no personal injuries, usually the two insurance companies will work it out. That's been my experience. But when someone is hurt, there's physical damage or physical injury or whatever, then that's, I suppose, a different question. But specifically about car insurance, we read a lot, Enrique, about stolen cars in some places like Washington D.C. or other major areas. Carjacking is almost like a game. I mean, in Washington D.C., it's ridiculous. You probably remember that Representative Henry Cuellar of South Texas was recently, attacked in Washington D.C. and they stole his car. So, how much of an impact does that have? And is that market by market or is that nationwide, Enrique?
Well, I think it's, anytime you have a total loss of a vehicle, it's going to impact that. Obviously, that carrier, they're going to have to pay for the stolen vehicle. And anytime you have claims, anytime these companies have claims, it's going to hurt their loss ratio. So if their loss ratios start to increase, then you can expect rates to go up because these companies have to have a certain amount of money in reserve just for claims. So, and if there's not enough money there, then the TDI will step up.
Yeah, the TDI meaning the
insurance.
The company that supervises them, I guess, right? So that they have because you hear about Washington D.C. specifically, or even Philadelphia, the number of cars being stolen and hijacked. In Chicago, if you remember recently, they had a situation where the Kia model was being stolen. I mean, if you had a Kia, you were almost like guaranteeing yourself that somebody would steal it. And I would think that, I would think that these kinds of things drive up the cost too.
Absolutely. They do.
And they drive it up for any policyholder that company has, because at the end of the day, it's all one big pool, right?
Exactly. I mean, there's been carriers, or I've had situations where I've had customers that go and purchase a new car, and depending on that car, they'll come back and we'll put the information into the system, and then may come back at a higher rate than what they had previously, and they're like, "Why did that happen?" And there can be several factors that can lead to that. One, if you have a vehicle that has a high car symbol on it. The higher the symbol, the more it takes to repair that car. Another thing, these companies are very tech savvy, and now they have a list of cars that are rapidly stolen. So if you get one of those cars and the rate goes up, it could be because of that factor.
Yeah. Now, a lot of people in Texas, as you know, being an insurance agent here in Texas, a lot of people here like to have trucks. And are trucks more expensive to insure? Are they more prone to car theft, or is there any difference?
But trucks are a little bit different. It depends on the value or the vehicle. I mean, there's basic truck types, and then you have different levels of, like you can have a Ram 1500, then you can have a Ram 2500, then you have a Ram 3500. So the higher up they go, the heavier the vehicle. A lot of the 2500s are used a lot by farmers and ranchers and people that are in construction that maybe pull a trailer. So they have a little bit more horsepower. So those trucks are going to be a lot more expensive. They're probably going to be, it's hard for me to give you a price, but yeah, they're typically a little bit more. And construction or whatever, they need to have a commercial policy. So,
well, I was thinking more of the risk not so much the price, but if you drive, I mean, just to name an example, here in Texas, the F-150 is extremely popular. Uh, is one of those cars going to be more expensive to insure than, let's say, a regular automobile, or does it make any difference?
Not really. I mean, I've seen some F-150s, some just regular standard pickups. They're just as
Yeah.
well
Okay.
auto policy, or auto car or car policy.
Yeah. Now, one quick question. As long as we're talking about trucks, it's something I was reminded of something. I've heard from people, and obviously, being in Texas, we have a lot of people who drive to Mexico. I've heard from some people that it's pretty risky to drive a truck to Mexico. Uh, do policies generally cover, let's say, driving into Mexico, or is that something you have to get a different kind of policy?
Yeah, typically, if you go into Mexico, most policies have that you can go in there for the first, I believe, 20 or 26 kilometers. And now there are some that if you still owe you have a lien on that vehicle, you may have to get permission from your finance company. And if you do, they typically want you to get Mexican insurance.
Okay.
Which can
All
be
right. And I guess you, from what I understand, you get that when you cross the border, or right before
before you.
you, yeah, before you cross. Yeah. Well, let's look at home insurance, or homeowners insurance, as they call it. Now we're talking about homes, not cars. There has also been an increase in these rates. I assume inflation is a factor as well, but are there other factors that play into home insurance rates?
Well, a lot of the factors are, the area that we live in, where we have a lot of claims due to hailstorms, windstorm, rain, um, things of that nature. Those drive up the rate, and then also obviously with the dramatic increase in prices, not only for materials but also in labor. It costs more money to reconstruct a home today than it did, say, 4 years ago. So all that has really creeped up, and now insurance companies are having to increase their rates in order to keep up with those costs.
Yeah. And how do the carriers communicate that to the agents? Because obviously the agent is between the customer and the carrier, obviously. But like, do the carriers send you information about what is happening in the market and why rates are going up? Do they give you that kind of information regularly?
Oh yes, we do get emails. They'll send them out to us. They'll say, "Hey, we're wanting to let y'all know that we're having price increases due to losses or due to cost of inflation." There's different data that they provide. I mean, they don't come out and say, "Hey, we're losing money" or anything like that.
Right.
But a lot of it is claims, and also because of the increase in prices.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I think people forget about that. I mean, this last point you made about, people think that inflation only applies to food and gasoline, but in
right,
fact, inflation applies to just about everything in the country. And I've heard, for example, statistics that'll say that the cost of your basic things has gone up, let's say 15% over the last 3 years. Well, that's going to impact insurance at some point as well, I would think.
yes, absolutely. I mean, if you start thinking about, you used to could pay a labor guy $10 an hour, and now they're at 15 or 20. So everything has gone up, and
Yeah,
it's it's really tough, because I know there's a lot of homeowners right now that are suffering, especially, a
sure.
lot have their homes, the homeowners insurance escrowed, and when they have to pay more money, then that means that their monthly payment is going to go up, because they have to adjust to that escrow account.
Right. And that's the other part that a lot of people don't think about,
Right.
how that goes up as well. What are you telling clients? I mean, without getting too specific, but like when a client calls you and says, "Hey, Enrique, what happened?" Well, I'm sure you've had a lot of these explanations, but what do you generally tell them?
Well, I mean, I just tell them the truth. I tell them exactly what the carriers have reported to us, and we just have to relay that information to them, and hope that a lot of them, the majority of them, understand because they've seen the price increases at the gas pump, they've seen price increases at the grocery store, and they're cognizant of those increases, and they understand, but they don't like to see it. We don't like to see it, but it's just something that hopefully will. I'm hoping and praying that within the next year or so that things kind of settle down a little bit. They need to.
Yeah. And another thing too, I think that with the price of homes maybe coming down a little bit because of the higher interest rates, hopefully that will also uh, bring down the cost. Because if your home is now worth, let's say, 300,000, just to think of an example,
Right.
and it was worth 200 before, that additional increase has an impact on your insurance, doesn't it?
It definitely does. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What are you've been through these cycles before, I would think, with your experience in the industry, you've been through these cycles before. Does it kind of settle down eventually? Is that usually what happens?
Yeah, it will. It may be 12 months, 18 months. This is in the 25 years that I've been an agent. This is probably one of the hardest markets that I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's carriers that because of the pricing models and everything that's going on, some carriers have pretty much said, "Hey, we don't want any more business for right now. We're going to
Right.
come tight and we're going to ride this out." And so market availability is very it's touch and go. There's companies that are telling us, hey, if things don't get better, we may wind up leaving Texas, and I
Right. Right.
hope that doesn't happen because these are good companies.
Sure.
So
But I mean, other states are having similar problems, right? I mean, for different reasons. Maybe Texas, I know we have crazy climates sometimes and maybe unique reasons, but I would think that if you go to, maybe some of the other areas that they have their own, like for example, in California, I read something that one of the big carriers was basically not going to do any more business because of all the problems they were having.
right there, I have heard of some carriers that have left California, some that have left Florida, and you got to remember these are by the coast where they're probably more prevalent for
Right.
hurricanes, and hurricanes are devastating. Texas, we got the coastline. We have all those counties up and down tier 1 and tier 2 that are greatly affected. Especially, we may not get as many hurricanes, but the tropical depressions and storms that come through definitely can cause a lot of damage.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to add that we didn't cover about this situation with insurance rates? Anything that we didn't cover?
Well, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I think we covered quite a bit. I think I just hope and pray that things settle down and that we're able to get back to some form of normalcy.
Yeah, no, I agree with you because I'm on the I'm on the customer side, and we all want that kind of stability as well. But we put a link to your agency in the show information. So if anybody has a question, click on that link, and that'll take them to your website. So um, I think that having someone like you, at least as a source of information, would be good for people. So we definitely would recommend people contacting you if they have any question. But I do want to thank you very much, Enrique, for taking the time and for giving us some very good information about a topic that I think a lot of people don't know much about, Enrique. I mean, I know that uh, you want to be careful with what you say, but I think a lot of customers probably don't know a lot about this, the inner workings of the industry and how things affect the price you pay.
Right. No,
Yeah.
that's yep.
Well, Enrique, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and have a good day and a busy day tomorrow.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. Our good friend Enrique Garcia, insurance agent. I have a link to his website on the show information. If you click on that, it'll take you to his website. But it's really it's a fascinating market because, like any other customer, we get these increases, And I've always been, I have a pretty good feeling for what's happening in the American economy. But we have seen some things here the last couple of years with inflation and a lot of other things that, drive up prices. And when you drive up prices, if it's more expensive to repair a home or repair a car, well, that's obviously going to have an impact on your insurance rates. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.